Hello, welcome to this edition of the Citizens Chat Show on Civic Space TV. I am Philllip Muliisa. Today, the chat show is talking about two very important scenarios in the country. One is the quest by the National Environmental Management Authority to reclaim wetlands, swamps across the city and the greater Kampala metropolitan area. And two is Parliament. The situation at Parliament, the arrests, the corruption, the summons to appear to police, and a series of things that are happening at Parliament is what we have on our table in the chat. And joining me on that conversation is a panel of distinguished citizens of this country, whom I will introduce, starting from the extreme left, a retired major of the NRAUPDF, and the Director External Affairs of the National Resistance Movement, Council Awich Pollar. Council, good afternoon, and you're most welcome to the show.
Thank you, Philip, and thank you to my colleagues. Greeting viewers and greetings from the mighty NRM.
The mighty NRM. Thank you, Major. Next to Major is a human rights defender, and since we are talking swamp reclamation, wetlands, and so on, she's also an environmentalist. Madam Winfred Mugambwa. Madam, good afternoon, and you're most welcome to the show.
Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much, Phil. I'm happy to be here with these gentlemen. I'm Winfred Mugambwa from Raiswa, Uganda. I'm an ecofeminist. Hello, viewers.
Thank you, ecofeminist. And last but not least is yes, she will have to tell us more about the ecofeminism and indeed what they are doing for this country. We have Dr. Robert Ojambo. He's the head of the Department of History and Political Science at Kyambogo University. Doctor, good afternoon, and you're most welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for the last 3 weeks now, the National Environment Management Authority has been demolishing, chasing, removing people and their property from Rubiji Swamp, that is along Nansana Road in Kampala here, and they say they are on a quest to reclaim a series of wetlands in the city. They talk about Rubiji, they talk about areas of Monyonyo, Ntinda, and Bwaise, all these areas. But before we get to the demolitions and the shifting of people, I should start with the ecofeminist and environmentalist. What is a wetland, and why is it so important for us that even today we are talking about wetlands and people living in wetlands, and how important are they to our country?
Thank you so much. Wetlands, I would say, is a home for many different inhabitants, mostly different species, different plants, and they also help us as human beings not only inhabiting the inhabitants. Some of them we use them as food. Many people use the wetlands. They help us in agriculture. Our wetlands also help us on the land conservation, and also help us on the air we breathe. And beyond only that, on the human and the other species, and then that inhabit in the wetlands, also the government, the countries benefit from it economically. And they are beneficial to the country to fight climate change actions. So without wetlands, if the wetlands are destroyed, it means you're destroying the human. You're destroying in summary, I can say that the health of the wetland is my health. It is the health of the planet. It's our economic health. So without them, it means that we are bound to die. Yeah.
Wow, the health of the wetland is the health of the people. Very interesting. Dr. Ojambo, you're a teacher, and one of the things you've taught is environmental history. When we talk about wetlands, today NEMA is saying people are encroaching on wetlands. We saw the stories on TV. People are saying, no, we've been here, we were born here. There's a gentleman I saw in Lubigi saying he had been in that area for 60 years.
60?
Yes. And he says even his father was there, and a series of them. How do we get to points where people are in these spaces for so many years and the government is not aware, and it only comes up at a particular time to say, oh, you're actually not supposed to be there?
Yeah, thank you so much, Phil. There's a student I'm just signing off. I think he's going to submit his dissertation maybe tomorrow or the other day. And he's doing evolution of agriculture on Kampala wetlands. And this includes Chinawataka, Lubigi, Nachivubo, Luzira. Those are all the big wetlands. And when you look at the landscape of Kampala, Kampala is made up of many hills, and it has a base of Lake Victoria. And the nature, there is a way nature formed and how nature manages itself, that whenever there is a hill, there is a valley. And in Kampala, majority of these valleys are wetlands. And if you look at the tradition, the Buganda tradition, where before the colonialists came, it was taboo to settle in the wetlands because they were attached to spiritual and the natural well-being of this place. So those places were not inhabited. And they were later, as the population grew, as she has said, they started supporting in a few things, but mainly spiritual and rehabilitational value. For example, if there was a problem with somebody, they would be healed at the wetland. But the ecological use of wetlands is a natural filtering area for the water that we use. That's why the Lake Victoria is surrounded by those wetlands and the shrubs. And if you went to countries like South Africa, they don't spend a lot of money on treating water. They just direct water to a wetland. It crosses to the other level when it is clean. And if you read, you will find that wetlands have capacity to absorb carbon dioxide and many other impurities that may be in water. For example, I was in Cape Town and they took me to a water purification center. I expected to reach there and find a lot of machinery and a lot of things, and they were showing me a wetland. I said, where is the purification center? And they said, that is the purification center. So these wetlands are here for a purpose. Unfortunately, in Uganda now, the wetlands have lost their purpose, and that's why you find that, for example, you have blue water in Lake Victoria. You have a lot of things in Lake Victoria because the wetlands, which are supposed to do their work, have been destroyed by encroachers. I call them so. So because of that, the colonial government, when it took over Uganda, they declared all wetlands to be government land or public land, and therefore people are not allowed to use them during colonial times except for a few government activities. Later, there was a very, very big problem. Of course, in 1975, the land decree also had returned them to the state. But when we passed our constitution in 1995, the current constitution, remember we already had the Wetland Act of 1990. Then it was improved in 1995 to include National Environmental, the one you talked about, NEMA. And he gave it the powers to control and manage and coordinate activities on wetlands and other areas. Of course, NEMA is not here for only wetlands. But the 1990 had given wetlands to local authorities the wetlands were being managed by local authorities and the government, but the local authorities had a lot of power. In 2019, that law was again improved to including the idea of sustainable development. And this is where the problem begins. That yes, the argument was that you cannot just have wetlands to be there and they are not helping people. We need to interact with the wetlands for sustainable development. You know, words like sustainable, ambiguous words. Normally people who want to abuse something, they use words sustainable, inclusive, you see. So this is sustainable thing. And this is not to mean that wetlands have been encroached on after that time, no. But wetlands have gotten problems because of our populist governments. The government is populist. They have the law here, but because of their populism, they cannot implement the law. I did a study on Kasokoso and Chiganda villages near Chireka there. And this place, when you look at it carefully, it was part of Chinatwataka wetland, or swamp, if you want to call it. But at first, the government, the colonial government, had given it to certain Indians who had established there, the upper part, established there a coffee company. First cotton, then coffee. But later, when the Indians went, the people started encroaching on it, and a certain family got ownership of a small land there. So as they were on that land, they continued digging yams and other things on Chinawataka. Then we did chasing of people from Namuongo wetland. There, that Namuongo wetland, there's a time when Mukwano was evicting people. That's what surprises you. They were evicting local people, that it is a wetland, then they give it to Mukwano. Unfortunately, that land is not for government, it's for this man, Kurubia. So the Mukwano was evicting people. So majority of the people who were evicted from Namuongo came to Chinawataka and started encroaching on it slowly until now it is a whole village. As we talk now, is one of the most populated villages in Kampala. There's actually Quarter, there is I don't know which one, there is, and so on and so forth. Now, wetlands, why I'm giving you this background is to show you that wetlands have been as a result of pressure elsewhere. Now, there was a northern war in northern Uganda, and many people were running away from war. But before northern war, there was a Luwero war. And many people were running away from that war to come to Kampala, because at that time, Kampala was the only safe place in that axis. So when they came, they did not have money to go and buy land in Ntinda, in these good places, Muyenga, because at that time, Muyenga was the place, and many other places. So they went to those places where there are wetlands. And the first wetland to be attacked was Kisenyi. You can't believe that Kisenyi was a wetland, including Nachivubo, where we have now this football stadium. You would even see, for us who went there when in 1990s to play football there, you would really see semblance of a swamp. And the whole part of that Kisenyi was just a swamp. Now you can imagine the storied buildings that are there. So they first finished that one. When they finished that one, they went to Namuongo area. The ones now who could not afford that area went to Namuongo, and Namuongo also became a suburb instead of being a swamp. And it has been extending until recently, when Otafire was a minister of lands, he completed with the Luzira. That land in Luzira was shared by very big Compredo peoples. Who have now put their huge buildings. If you want the nice buildings in Luzira, you go to that place. That place was a swamp. So in other words, why we have failed to maintain, to answer your questions again, why we have failed to maintain swamps is not because we have one of the best laws. Our Constitution, 1995 Constitution as amended. We have the Land Act. we have the Local Government Act, we have the all those acts that I talked about. In each one of them, there is a section which is specifically for the management of wetlands, and they show you who is supposed to do what. But the people who are there, number one, have abdicated their duty. NEMA, I'm sorry, NEMA, sometimes people think that it is an agent of encroachers. They are the ones, for you to use any wetland area, you must get what they call impact assessment clearance, and that impact assessment is done by NEMA. If you go and check most of those investments on wetlands, they have been cleared by NEMA. But now, the same NEMA who has cleared people to build the petrol stations, people to build big houses there, to build the factories, because most of the factories in Kampala are in wetlands. You go to Banda there and see. And they have impact assessment reports which have cleared by NEMA. Is now the one telling us that it is removing people from Lubigi. So that's why somebody recently drew a cartoon and said, poor people not allowed to construct in wetland. So the issue has been, and you saw the Lubigi thing if you have been watching carefully, the politicians are up in arms, saying, why are you evicting people? And the same politicians are the ones who are supposed to be talking about the law. And they ask questions, and that's how you started. That you see, where was NEMA when these people were here, encroaching here? And it normally gives me an instance that, for example, if I enter a supermarket, and I get out with a kilo of sugar, because the security is not good, and I get out with the sugar, do I cease to be a thief?
Thank you, Doctor. Major, you see, NEMA is an institution of government. You have an institution of the NRM government sending away people from their residences, destroying property, destroying businesses in a swamp like Ruvigi and indeed other swamps like they say they are going to destroy. Why should government wait for people to settle, then come and harass them?
Well, thank you so much. I first like to start by adding on the definition of wetland, if it may help clear. I think wetland are those ecological areas of natural water and that whatever nature, that vegetation, and they are created long during the formation of the earth system. In other words, you don't go and dig a dam in a place and then pour water, say this is wetland. And therefore, they are also demarcated that in such an environment, it covers, I think, 150 meters from the main, the center where there's maybe water itself. So that gap of 150 meters is also taken as wetland. And this covers all such natural situation all over the country, not only in the city. So if there's a prohibition or protection, it goes across the country with that meter from this, where the water is up to 150 meters. Ideally, there's a prohibition of even cultivation or even selling. If your land comes to that area, you are supposed to sell minus that distance from that, because that is the stretch which is defined as taken as wetland. I stay on this side of Nansana where this other thing has been going on, so I've been seeing it live. I pass there in the morning, in the evening I see it. About the government silence and watching until it happens as it is now, I think it has been touched. For a start, as a party in our manifesto, we have a provision on a manifesto for the protection of environment, which we think as a party, when we win election, we give to the line ministry concerned, because we expect that the line ministry will execute this manifesto, issues that are in the manifesto. So we take great concern about environment, because there's a threat that if we don't do much, the world will extinct. And some people think that maybe this is not the first life on Earth. Maybe others had extinct before, because some people believe that in America they uncovered some cities which were long buried under the ground. So there's a global fear that if we don't manage environment, we shall extinct. At one time, President, this other guy coming back to America, who?
Donald Trump.
Trump thought it was a joke and he rubbished it off. Said those are fun of liars talking about environment. There's nothing like that. But I think later on he came to believe it. And during his term, the Americans were hesitant in signing the national documents or even funding activities about that. And yet they are the ones polluting the air with the biggest number of factories and all that. So environmental threat is real. And part of the saviors to save us from that is that wetland that is defined in law. There's a relevant provision in the Act of Parliament that defines what a wetland is. And as I said, that provision says it is 15 meters away from the center of the water. So I thought we would add that. Now, why it happens is sometimes maybe more than one reason, but for a fact that there is an environmental police. And I think as usual, they are thin on the ground. So how they do their intelligence to find out, to carry out prohibition, because ideally they are supposed to prohibit. But I think what they prohibit the construction instead of destroying the construction. One way of prohibiting the construction is that whenever you are building a house, your plan should be approved. And the approval includes the district planners coming on the site to see the plan on paper and the plan on the ground. So either some of these people evade it, they don't take their plan for approval, because if they, like in the case of Lubiji, you are supposed to take it to Wakiso district. And then the Wakiso district people are supposed to come on the ground with your plan in their hand, in the paper plan, the one drawn by the architecture, and compare with what is on the ground. And of course, a plan cannot be executed in the clouds. It must be on the ground. If the district authorities find that it is in a wetland, they're supposed to tell you, no, don't. So that is one prohibition point. And that prohibition point is always messed up because, first of these people don't have the plan, and they don't call people to see. But there's also a fear that there's a plan, and it is in a wetland, and they compromise the officials. The officials either don't turn a blind eye to it, or they actually see it and ignore it. So that is also one of the weaknesses that needs to be addressed. Is it true that these people actually have a plan, and they show it to these people, to the planners, instead of visiting and saying, stop that, don't implement your plan? They turn a blind eye or something like that. Of course, the other thing I'd said is that the coverage of the distance is wide. While the police is patrolling the other side, this side is building. Me, I had not known that they had gone so deep. But after destroying, you can now see how far they had actually penetrated the wetland. Because I was seeing only the houses on the roadside. I didn't know that beyond these houses on the roadside, they had actually gone like almost a kilometer inside the wetland.
But Isumeja, is it not criminal on either side? The encroachers, but also the people in authorities, the district planning authorities, officials of NEMA who are issuing environmental assessment certificates to these people if they do, and so on, environmental police, to see that people are in wrong places and no one is held accountable?
It is, it is. And that's why when we talk of corruption, the definition is so wide. It may not only just mean picking cash from a government coffer or from a public coffer. Corruption itself would include this. In fact, I'm not so sure, I need to check about the ingredients, but it can also amount to abuse of office. Because if your office is supposed to check this and you use your office to verify a wrong or to ignore a wrong, it is itself abuse of office, corruption. There are so many ingredients that can be fished out. So it's an area that needs to address. In other words, I'm concurring with you that it is true that there could be a prohibition, and indeed there is legislation that could prohibit, if implemented, could prohibit. But that it is not done, and we reach to a point of destruction, which is so unfortunate.
Thank you. Mrs. Winfred, you see, people are being evicted from a wetland, and you said the health of that wetland is indeed the health of human beings. And I saw Nema was saying partly the reason we have air pollution in the city is because Rubiji swamp specifically has been encroached on. They continue to say the supply of water in the cattle corridor is also affected by the same, encroachment and so on. But you have people, and I want us to talk human rights. One of the rights of peoples in the modern world is the right to shelter. You are reclaiming a swamp, but you are infringing on the right to shelter of these individuals. Where do we get the balance between environment and human rights? I saw a lady who had 4 children, the eldest being around 10, and they slept outside. You don't know what is moving in the night, the coldness and so on.
In fact, to me, it's not only the right to shelter that would be encroached on during such an exercise. As much as I appreciate the work of NEMA, what they're doing, as much as I appreciate that what the victims had done in case they were not authorized was wrong, but again, NEMA and the government has to put back on their mind that when we are looking at environmental conservation, wetland conservation, we are not only looking at that, we are looking at community livelihood, the livelihood of the people who are staying there, and not only them, because when those people are interfered with, it means even me who is somewhere else, my security might be is interfered with, because where are those people going? Most of them. And then you also look at economic development. And the main problem here is, I think there is lack of sensitization. NEMA comes in and says, okay, these people are encroaching on this land. And we have seen people saying we've stayed there for 40 years. Yes? Where has the government been? Where has NEMA been? Yes, all this long. And even before, we do understand, personally understand that they say they've been mourning these people from 2021. But where is the human rights-based approach to the citizens of Uganda that, okay, we are warning these people to get out of this place from 2021, but where do we want them to go? Yes? And when you look at, funny how, when you look at, we are moving away from National Development Plan 3 to National Development Plan 4. And Uganda is looking at ending poverty, eradicating poverty through economic development. And one of the things they're saying is they are targeting industrialization. That is one of them. And one of the questions, given the example we are having now, where is the government going to put these industries? Yes? Now we are not looking, I'm just trying to broaden to, before I go to the people who are suffering. Government is telling us this. In NDP 4, it's targeting industrialization. The example we are having now, look at Mbanda, look at Namamve, yes, look around, even because industrialization comes with urbanization, comes with building infrastructures. So where is government going to put that? Are they removing the people? Someone else would think that, okay, is this also another targeted area? So that in NDP 4, as they are growing the industries, this is one of the places they want to put, you know, you get it? So again, you also look at, okay, again, still, another thing they're targeting is agro-industrialization. And again, who are the people, who is going to carry out the agriculture? It is the people. Where is the agriculture going to take place? I'm not saying it's going to take place in the wetland, but it is one of the targeted places that the people who are going to carry out the agriculture, it might not be Luigi, it might be another wetland. It might be a destruction of any other place that can also affect the wetland. Still, the government would ask, if you're pushing people away from the wetlands and you're not giving them an alternative, the government has not put there, and NEMA even has not put there, an alternative to the problem they're saying. Where are they going to do all these things they're telling us? Yes?
I mean, could we say there is a mismatch, a miscommunication in between government? Because if you then have to give people where to stay, it is not a mandate of NEMA alone. You have to involve the Ministry of Lands and Finance. And
that is why I'm saying NEMA and government, because I don't think NEMA works all alone. It's not only government. In this problem, personally, I think it's not only government. When I was reading a letter, because people were so much, I had people crying, saying that Buganda Land Board, you gave us these titles, and then Buganda Land Board came out with a letter, which is very good, saying that, okay, yes, we gave you the titles. Yes, we are collecting, they're accepting, they're collecting Busulu from them. But again, they are saying, it is NEMA to authorize. You get it? So there is a disconnect within the different bodies or different authorities, because Buganda Land Board is not would not be part of the government on NEMA, but at least they are part of the process, they are part of the system around the wetland. So that disconnection is later trickling down to the poorest of the person who is suffering. When we talk about people didn't have land, there are minor things we would look at. Yes, because we would see mostly people affected are the women. Yes, the men are affected. But let me give you an example. If me and you were there when they were demolishing that place and I was pregnant, that very night, you would find is the solution to go, and Mia would be in a burden. We would look at the things we don't look at, like menstrual hygiene. Yes, people who are demolished places there, and women, why is the quickest solution? So as government looks at reserving this land and reclaiming the wetlands, NEMA reclaiming, we would, as much as we're having these things on paper, very nice, it's a good plan, the government is going to the country is going to develop, but the question remains is, how are we going, are we supposed to develop the country on the expenses of its citizens? Are we supposed to have a country that is developed with citizens who are suffering? Is that really a developed country? And again, another problem, we would see that, okay, one question is, why has Rubiji been so much a target? This is not the first time. That is a question, and to me, I would feel, and even people have been complaining that there is selective enforcement. Yes? Okay. We would, citizens, NEMA is right saying that, okay, there are people who are authorized to be there. How would I know? Because there are different levels, persons who don't even know, maybe they're right, they don't know that, how can I really do what? How can I get the authority? How can I be given the authority to stay on that land? The main problem right now, I would say, is what the government is fighting. Government is fighting to eradicate poverty, but it's one of the reasons why people encroached on the what? On the wetlands. And again, we can't say that again. As we fight the major problem of the country, that is poverty, we also have to push people go back to poverty without having solutions to them.
You see, one of the challenges we have in the world today is climate change. And we say if it is not addressed, then Major did mention there, humanity could extinct. And one of the ways we have to bring back humanity is reclaim some of these spaces. What do we do? And
I really, I concur with you. That is where I said in the first place that, is it really what the government, our government of Uganda, is it what it is is it really its agenda, given the different examples we are seeing? Personally, I feel it is a good thing. Even in the NDP4, it is one of the agendas to see that greening the economy. But again, I feel there needs to be a great balance between, and it is a question where I see our government still having a problem balancing conservation with economic development. Yes, given what I've stated, where is the high industrialization going to take place? Where is it? The different structures to feed into the industries, where are they going to be? I'm just taking examples of the different areas, things that we've had what is happening in the Southwest, we've had Nama. I've given the different examples. So what the motive behind is another question that that as citizens we have. And because we have seen different examples, and we have seen government when they start talking about tourism, yes, are they looking at prioritizing tourism to livelihood, which would be very okay. And my issue is, these are citizens of Uganda who have been there over 40 years, very many of them, yes. Was it is the solution pushing them away from that place without having another solution? Because we are talking about sustainable development. Is the language they are using. Are we going to grow sustainably when we are having people who are homeless, when the number of homeless persons has increased? Are we going to grow sustainably when the security, because only that encroaches on the security of the country, yes? Meaning that we are raising, you know, these days we've been having issues of they call it round kicks. Are we grooming more round kickers in the town? So the initiative, what NEMA is doing, is so right. I appreciate it, yes, but again, we can't do it on the expense of of the citizens. We have NEMA, has the government, NEMA, different people have to come up, different body, even Buganda Land Board, who is doing what, who is collecting the usul. They also need to come into to get a solution for these people.
Thank you so much. Doctor, she raises an important point. Buganda Land Board giving out land titles in all these places. What is the position of Buganda Land Board in this government? Are they supposed to be giving out this land? And in fact, where is the harmonization between the authority of Buganda in terms of land and the central government?
Yeah, thank you so much. Today I'm really very happy. We are discussing something that is in my docket. My studies are on land and land conflict. When you look at the majority of encroachments in Uganda are orchestrated. They are not by accident. In other words, they are not caused by scarcity of land. No. Because Uganda is not one of the countries where we don't have enough arable land. In fact, in East Africa, we are the highest with arable land which can be used economically well, and it produces for you 2 seasons in a year, in Western, all the places. But the biggest problem is that, in my view, these are intended plans. They are normally plans of high people above. And I can give you from the studies that we have read. Buganda Land Board is a result of our land tenure system. Uganda has one of the most liberal land tenure systems in Africa. And that liberal land tenure system is divided into 4. You have public land, which belongs to the state, and that is under the Uganda Land Commission. Then you have Mairo Land. Mairo Land is private, owned by people in especially Buganda. It is a land tenure system for mainly Buganda, but it is a private land, and they normally call it private Mairo. Then we have freehold. Freehold is where you own land in perpetuity. Maybe you purchased it or you inherited it as an individual. That is freehold. Then the last one is customary land, which is mainly in eastern, western, or generally outside Buganda and Kampala. So Buganda Land Board only controls the land that belongs to the Kingdom of Buganda, the one they normally call Akenda. Because Buganda has three forms of land. We have the land that belongs to Buganda as a kingdom. There is land that belongs to the king and his associates. They have some land, and that was done with the Buganda Agreement of 1900. Then we have the private Milo, the land which was given to private people. Those days it used to be chiefs. For example, the chiefs who benefited the most was, there were two chiefs, and both of them were Katikiros of Buganda. That is Stanislas Mugwanya and Sir Apollo Kagwa. Those people almost owned the whole of Kampala. Land which does not belong to the Kabaka belonged to those people. So that is private. They would sell. Of course, they were joined by the Omuwanika, this one in Mukono, I've forgotten his name. He was one of the treasurers.
About in Sibirwa?
There was in Sibirwa, but there is one in Mukono there who is one of the biggest landlords. So they are the ones who have sold to these private people. So Buganda only controls that land which belonged to the kingdom, not even the Kabaka. The Kabaka had his hills in Lunguja, Mutungo, this Buziga. Those were for the Kabaka. They were about 360 square miles. So the land board, there are lands which are wetlands, which were in the Buganda Land Board. Now, in most cases, I've discovered that people use it as a scapegoat. When you go to any place in Buganda here and you find local people who have settled somewhere, the first answer they will give you that this land was given to us by the Kabaka or by Buganda. But when you interrogate, you discover that it is a lie. For example, Lubiji cannot belong to the Kabaka.
But Buganda came out and
listen, those are liars. They need to produce documents. I have followed up these matters. I have followed the matter of Chinawataka. I have followed the matter in Lubiji. I've told you I have a candidate who is going to present work for a master's degree, and we have verified information with the data and evidence. Lubiji, the bigger part of Lubiji is not Buganda land. It is public land, because in the agreement, all wetlands and the other physical, natural lands were declared public land. So they don't belong to the Kingdom of Uganda. They belong to the government of Uganda under Land Commission, but placed in the Ministry of
Doctor, what you say is very interesting, but what percentage of land in this country is wholesomely surveyed that we know the boundaries of where public land
is? No,
is?
the land in Buganda, all land in the Buganda region is surveyed. It's surveyed, and the beauty is that you don't only need to rely on our records in Entebbe. If you want, you can verify with the records in the UK. because Buganda was a big thing during the Buganda Agreement of 1900. So the land in Buganda, 100% is surveyed and titled. And as I told you, we have public land in Buganda, we have kingdom land, we have the land that belongs to the Kabaka, we have the land that belongs to the private people, the private milo. So what about Lubigi? The whole of Lubigi, I've told you, that Kampala has about 4 huge wetlands. And they are Lubigi, that begins this side and goes and joins or connects with Nakivubo in one area. Then Nakivubo moves, joins with the Uzira, and then they come down here, we have Chinawataka. Those are the major wetlands, of course with other small things, but those are the major. Remember, we even got, we have not just once, we have gotten money many times from the World Bank and from the European Union to develop these 2 channels, Lubigi and Nakivubo. Nakivubo, they succeeded very well, and they developed the channel, although I can see commercial things sometimes erupting on some of it. But Lubigi, there was confusion, because Lubigi, part of it is in Kampala, part of it is in Wakiso. Those days it used to be in MPG. So sometimes the local governments confuse each other. Where Lubigi connects from Kampala to Wakiso, sometimes you find that the Wakiso part is fine, the Kampala part has a problem. Like the Kampala part, if you pass after Chisasi here and you go, it's well developed. It starts collapsing from Bwaise as you slope. From Bwaise, then you go to down Damungona, like that, up to down there. There's a problem. So I would like to respond to the issue of members who said they are settled there for 60 years. I think they need to be...
40.
There's a gentleman who said he's been there for 60 years. He's called Mr. Musoke something.
I think he might have been there for some time. 60 is an exaggeration, because that would mean he was living in that place from 1980. Are you getting me? I told you in 1975, there was the land.
Beyond 80.
Actually 70.
Beyond 80, if it is 60 years.
Yes. So in 1970, there was the land decree. And the land decree of Idi Amin, one of the areas that were very clear were wetlands. All, you know, the land decree declared all the land in Uganda public land. But the only problem was how you effect it, to effect the decree. The decree was there, but how to effect the decree. Now, the first culprits that first off from the decree were people who lived in wetlands. You know how Amin was practical. Soldiers went and just demolished everything there.
So you're saying during that time there were people there, right?
I can tell you from the history of Buganda. In Buganda, staying in wetlands was taboo. During colonial times, people tried, but they were evicted. And then there was not much pressure like it is today. I must sympathize. And you see, I've been an activist of the people. If you read my works, I have titles such as The State versus the People. I go with that biased mind. It is the people that I go for. But it helps me that when I reach there, to find, for example, I've done a study on Mountain Elgon. People may look at this Lubigi issue and think that is serious. There have been a serious conflict between the people and the Wildlife Authority on Mountain Elgon, covering so many districts of Mbale, districts of Kapichorwa, now Bukwo, and many others, because there are people there, like the Bennett, where the Bennett live and where they were born, which they form their cradle land, is on on an area which was declared a protected area. The Sebei people and very big number of people called the Bagisu or the Bamasaba. But again, when you go deeper and do research, you find that there is half-truth. You find that, yes, there is where government has encroached on the people's land, but there is also a bigger chunk of land that have been encroached on by the people. Now, how do the people normally go there? In most cases, it's crisis settlement. People go there and first settle as a form of crisis. As I told you, the people who were living in Mutungo and coming to Chinawataka, it was like a crisis. They have been evicted from Mutungo. So they are sympathized with and they settle in Chinawataka. In Lubiji, at first, these were just farmlands, and Lubiji have a very big connection with it, because historically we study it as a cultural place where even we had some Misambwa connections. Misambwa gods, not small gods, but spirit mediums in Buganda, and even Lubiji himself, the name Lubiji is from that connotation. They start as gardens where people go to farm yams, sugarcane, and other things. Then as somebody is growing his sugarcane, he constructs a small thing to keep the farm from birds and what have you. He later says, why don't I stay here? Then another one comes and asks, for you are staying here, how can I come and stay here? He said, I can sell it to you. By the way, they sell those pieces of land. Then they sell, this one constructs. They first construct makeshift houses. Now, before you know, they have now constructed, that's why, Major, you need to go deeper into the thing. People don't go there and put a permanent house like Papa. No. It takes time. They first start with a makeshift, maybe polythene bag house. Then from that, they construct a semi-permanent. Then from semi-permanent, they are joined by now people who are working in Kampala here who can afford. They put these bare brick tile. Now, I want to bring in two institutions which have been very good at encroaching on wetlands. Uganda National Housing and something Corporation Limited. I want you to check where every place where those people have constructed their houses.
Nalia.
In Nalia,
Namungono.
Isn't it a wetland? In Nalia, it is a wetland. They have encroached on that Nalia swamp. They have now just left a stretch of about 3 meters where the water passes. They are constructing their storage buildings in a wetland. I don't know whether NEMA does not work with them. If you remember, the land in Chinawataka was being struggled for between the people and the national housing. If you see Namungona and many of those places. So, those, I have termed it as a new form of land grabbing. You first bring the people, they start settling there. After settling, they pretend now to be selling to those big people. And that's why people, like for example, I can tell you for a fact, the conflict in Rubiji right now is a deal that has gone bad. Somebody must have wanted that place and he didn't know how to come in. And now they use evictions and what have you. Before you know, you will start seeing petrol stations there. Look at, there is a petrol station I've been watching very carefully. I will not mention its name on air because I know it has commercial issues. There is a petrol station for viewers you can observe in Kampala. Wherever they have constructed their petrol station, it was either a swamp or a valley. We have it in Wandegea, we have it in Ibanda, we have it in Ntinda, we have it in everywhere it is. And this person seems to be an agent of government. For him, he constructs. Lastly, the politicians use this problem. Like, for example, now I have seen the one in Kampala. I saw politicians going there. They are not defending it for the human rights, as he's saying. They are defending their voters. That's how Semuju was struggling with the people in Chinawataka. He almost lost his life. And the other man, is not reading the law and looking at human rights, because it's not even proposing that these people should be relocated to this place. He's saying they should stay there because they're his voters. So that has been one of the problems, including the president. Sometimes when they want to be evicted, he says, leave my people, leave them, leave them. Today, he gives a decree that they should all be removed. When they are removing them, he says, leave my people. So there are three things. One, land grabbers. Two, people who want cheap land. You know, wetland land is one of the cheapest because this one in Ntinda is very expensive. And three, politics and populism.
Thank you, Doctor. Land grabbing, politics, and the cheap land for the poor people. Thank you so much for keeping it the Citizens Chat Show. We head into a very short break and we shall be right back.
Digital rights are those human rights and legal rights that allow individuals to access, use, create, and publish digital media or to access and use computers, other electronic devices, and telecommunication networks. Digital rights include a right to freedom of expression, information and communication through technology, a right to privacy and data protection, a right to credit for personal works, a right to universal and equal digital access, a right to identity, a right to anonymity, a right to be forgotten, and a right for protection of minors, among others. The state's digital rights are frequently violated through various unfair actions, for example, blockage of websites and social networks, theft of credentials, unauthorized use of people's data for personal gain, privacy intrusion, online censorship, arrests and intimidation of online users, internet blockages, and the proliferation of laws and regulations that undermine the potential of technology to drive social, economic, and political development worldwide. It is hence every citizen's responsibility to respect rights of other digital users and to speak out or report to the responsible parties when one's rights are violated.
Welcome back from that break. It is the Citizens Chat Show on Civic Space TV. I am Philllip Muliisa. Today we are discussing the environment and land, paying keen attention to the eviction of people from swamps, wetlands across the city by the National Environment Management Authority. But also, in the last segment of the show, we're going to talk about the confusion at Parliament, the mess at Parliament, the arrests, and so on. And joining me on those two topics is Major Awich Pollar, Mrs. Winfred Mugambwa, and Dr. Robert Ojambo. Major, while we left off, there were a series of conversations about this issue, the evictions and the wetlands and the environment generally. We talked about how some people are evicted and others are not evicted. And actually, people have certificates that allow them to operate in these particular spaces, big local and foreign investors. Is government, as we look at it, because you will talk about the manifesto, but it has always been there, should we say that the NRM government is now fully committed to make sure wetlands and indeed forest area, talk about the lakes and so on, can be conserved now to protect humanity?
Yes, the commitment is there. Serious one.
Tangible commitment.
Yes. I'll conclude there, but let me talk about some issues which, as you said, were discussed, about the balance between the environmental protection and individual rights. You see, rights are not supposed to be intersectional. Immediately my rights interferes with our rights, then it ceases to be rights. It should only be my rights as long as I'm free to be here, but I'm not free to step on our feet. So, therefore, there must be a balance between environmental protection and the rights of the individuals. In this case, we're saying right to environment is that we should preserve, conserve it, and protect it. And then somebody is saying he has a right to a house, a right to a shelter. So therefore, you having a right to shelter in an environmentally gazetted protected area is a violation of rights of others. In fact, it's a public right. It is not a private right vis-a-vis a public right. So rights are not intersection. Once your right intervenes with the rights of another, then it ceases to be right. Therefore, those individual rights of right to shelter, where you put yourself in a wetland it cannot be protected or cannot even be promoted, because your right is already interfering with the right of the majority. Because environmental right is group rights, and yet you have your individual rights. You have a right to shelter in a proper place, not a right to shelter to this one. Now, about Buganda Land Board. Buganda Land Board, indeed, they have been giving their land, and they issue their land board the certificate or whatever. But I wouldn't want to say that when they give, they also determine the usage. Just like any land, even if you bought land in Karamoja or bought land in Acholi, the land is the land, but the usage are subject to the laws. So whoever has given you land or whoever has sold you land, the usage of that land is subject to the laws. For example, if it so happens that they find gold under that land that was yours, it will be subject to the laws governing land usage where natural resources is found under. You won't say, no, this land was sold to me, so therefore the gold nobody should touch. So the land usage and the land selling is sold subject to the use as per the law. And therefore, even if Buganda Land Board gave you land in a wetland, you can't say you gave me on a wetland and therefore maybe you were due to bound to give awareness to me. If that was the case, then everybody else, whether in Karamoja or Acholi or Kigezi, when selling land would give you awareness.
You see, Major, what you say is right, but maybe could it be time that we think about whoever is selling land, and particularly government institutions that are involved in the selling, contribute to, or we have an assessment of what this land is going to be used for. And I'll give you an example. In the 1930s, there was a crisis in the United States, normally referred to as the dust crisis of New York, something like that, where a lot of dust, because of poor land use, winds came, the normal winds they normally have, the hurricanes and so on, and dust covered the whole of New York. In the future, this country could be faced with a crisis because we do not monitor what people are using this land for. We find ourselves in a place where we cannot survive. Isn't it time we start monitoring what people are actually using land for?
That is why there is approval of the plan. The idea of the law having you to be approved is to be sure you are using land for the right thing. So we are already there. That you said you want to build and it is approved. Is it for building? If it is not for building, then you are stopped. So we are pretty there that where you, even the industrial location, I think we already have where there are gazetted areas for industrial complexes. Yes, so that you put it along that. So the decision as to proper use of the land is already there. And that's why whoever sells you knows that you have done due diligence and you will use it subject to the laws. And this is not only applicable in wetland, but even on ordinary land. Yes. So therefore, I find that Buganda Land Board gives you land, you use it subject to the laws. If you got wetland, you should use it subject to the law applicable to wetland. Whether it is by putting yams or looking at it, it's up to you.
But this is at the discretion of the user.
Yes.
Government is not directly involved.
No, government controls the usage, and that's why there's a law to that effect. That's why there's approval of plans. And that's why there are gazetted areas for this and that. So government controls it.
In other words, government is breaking its own law. Because if it is approving these plans and people
that's why we had started with that either the approval is out of fraud. We mentioned corruption therein. We talked about it, that the approval would be in a error, it would be corruption. Or even the non-approval is an omission, a great omission. Because in a crime, it may be a commission or an omission. By not approving it itself is an omission. By approving it wrongfully is even itself a wrong commission, a crime. That one we talked about it.
And the Major, if that is found any time, even after 50 years, it is cancelled.
Yes. But again, also another question I have around there. Okay, you're selling the land, yes, and you like getting out of the equation yet you still on a, Busuli is paid on a yearly basis?
Yes,
Yes,
annually.
yet annually, you're still collecting from them. I believe that is why it bounds you to at least stay in the equation to see that, okay, where I'm feeding, because this money is like, it's feeding you still. You get it? Because you're also earning from this it's a venture you're earning. I'm terming it as a venture because you're earning something from it. Can I stay in the equation and still also sensitize these people so that I can continue? You get it? Them still earning from it yearly. Somehow, I feel
Keeps them attached.
attached to the buyer.
Of course, the equation remains in that the relationship between you is that there is a buyer-seller that will never be broken.
Yes.
And then there is the owner of the motherland title and you who is given the small one. So the relationship is there, it exists. So nobody has pulled out of the equation. But as for the sensitization, you know, you are bordering into areas of ignorance of law is no defense. So it is not enough for you to say, I bought this land and I did not know that the law says if oil is discovered under, or if gold is discovered under, it becomes a government property. That is what the law says. So you can't say because I was not sensitized and therefore I was ignorant of this law, then somebody is liable. No. That you are now saying you are not knowing the law or you are not being sensitized to be made aware, somebody must be culpable. No, they can't. Because ignorance of law. It is not all about wetland. You can buy a land and it is found that there's gold or oil there. Government will say go away because that's what the law says.
And government always compensates those people.
Yes, if it tells you to go away. But here in this your wetland, nobody has told you to go away. You got it like. Now, I want to talk about sustainable development. For our viewers, I think the sustainable development is a concept which is saying we can consume this environment, but we don't destroy it. In other words, we use this environment, but we don't destroy it. And it is therefore, it's a wider concept of sustainable development. But the broad thing is, how do we use this environment for development without necessarily destroying? It can be, for example, by control emission of the gases. It can be, you have seen some eco-investment, like if you went to Mabira, you find in Mabira, there are hotels. Those hotels are there, but not destroying forest. Put the hotels, put the rooms, put the what there, but save the environment. So this is a sustainable development is a wide concept, but in brief it says, can we use environment without necessarily destroying it? Control the emission, invest in eco-investment, where you have investment but save the forest, save the water there. You see that forest there. There are many examples. So that is what I just wanted us to be clear about.
Maybe for the future major, because now, for example, Doctor here talked about the Wetland Act of 1990. The population of Uganda at that time was about anything between 17 to 20 million people. Today we are talking to close to 50 million people. How do we maintain the sustainability for the future as the population keeps on growing? And of course, rural-urban migration.
Yes, that law was put to envisage that, this population was threatening wetland. So it was actually meant to protect the wetland from the expanding population. But still, a law is a law. It's not made of hard and frozen. You cannot expect that in 100 years it would be the same. That is why you have amendment of the laws. Laws are a reflection of the practical living conditions at a given time. It is not hard and frozen. But in this case, the society had seen a threat on the environment by that same expanding population. That's why the law was put in place. So, this population is increasing and it will threaten our livelihood of a life as protected by this environment. Let us protect it. But as for going around, who knows? We have national parks. Who knows in 1,000 years, maybe the government will gazette national parks and turn it into agriculture. But laws are not hard and frozen. But laws are put by envisaging to prevent a mischief. Laws are put to prevent a mischief. So in this case, the mischief was the threat by that big population on the wetland. Now, so your question was about the
will of government.
The will of government. The will of government is there. And that is why we have already talked about it, dating from the law of 1990, as it cites it, dating to the various international instruments that Uganda has ratified. Uganda has been running lots of negotiations in Brazil, everywhere. We have been active members. Uganda has been the forefront, active members in the negotiation. We have ratified so many international agreements. We have enacted so many laws here. As I told you, we have built the environment police, a police specifically for environment. We have put the act that we are talking about, and you can see the destruction going on of people who are going in the wetland. Therefore, the commitment is there. As we all said, the commitment can only be brought down by actors in the government system. That is corruption, that you have always said. That you have the good laws, you have the commitment, but somebody out there who is supposed to either enforce is not enforcing or is compromised. But about commitment, you can see our commitment both at international fora, at domestic fora, and the bodies those are put. Because it's not enough to put in laws, but to build institutions that actually operationalize and supervise those laws.
Thank you so much, Menja. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the time we had for the topic of environment. We want to shift gears to Parliament of the Republic of Uganda. As we speak now, we have 3 legislators inside cells. The Honorable Sisena Muju, the Honorable Paul Akamba, and the Honorable Yusuf Motembuli. And of course, there are reports that several more could end up in the cells or anywhere beyond that. And this comes at a time when we had a lot of conversation about management of Parliament, the expenditure of Parliament. We had service awards for commissioners. We had the Speaker of Parliament in the spotlight, allegedly for corruption, and we have sanctions against her and some of our other colleagues. Doctor, every other week there is something unfolding about this Parliament. Where is our Parliament heading? We seem to be lost.
I have always been saying that our Parliament is not different from the society that we live in. And no institution is different. All institutions in Uganda have problems, just like the ones in Parliament. Only that right now the Parliament is the one on spotlight. So if you took the same engagement to any other government institution, there will be some people who will need to be arrested and written about and so many things. All, including the police, of course the corruption.
Including Kyambogo University.
Yes, corruption reports have been putting police. Police has been defending champion.
At one time, the president says they win the award and they keep on.
Police has been defending champion for almost every year as one of the most corrupt institutions. I tend not to agree with that thing. It's just that I think they are lazy. They keep regurgitating what they gave us last year. If they were really serious, we would really compete favorably. If you went to URA, you went to police, you went to UPDF.
If they compete in corruption.
Yes, we would compete favorably. So Uganda is generally a very corrupt society. And for that matter, Parliament right now is on the spotlight. And it's a good thing for me. It should have started happening yesterday. Because it looks like Parliament had become a den of thieves, where they go, instead of going there to legislate, to appropriate, to do oversight, they were going there to cut deals. I've always told people here that it had become a deals center. And this is just bringing, it is just an iceberg. a tip of an iceberg. If somebody went there seriously, I think we may not have a parliament. We may end up having all members of parliament in jail. I've just seen names which are being alleged, and I'm saying, hey, now who is going to survive?
This one.
Who is going to survive if all these ones are in the racket? But those who are known, like I'm not shocked if Mawanda is involved. You know Mawanda now.
The Honorable Mawanda.
You may not be aware. He's also under detention.
He's arrested.
Yeah, he went for questioning, and they detained him.
Yesterday.
Yes, and I have not heard whether they have released him.
Not yet.
So Mawanda, his other friend is also, they are putting them in different police stations. I like it. You remember Mawanda was one time on a corruption scandal in India. Mawanda and Musumba. And we are very worried because the laws in the east there, we thought that they would even be killed. They managed to survive and come back. Then the other ones, in fact, I was shocked when I saw these guys who were arrested, the first ones. Because for me, my suspicion was elsewhere. I'd gotten information that some members of parliament are going to be arrested tomorrow. So I was expecting different ones. When I saw the ones who were arrested in Namuju, then the other poor man from Mutembule, I was shocked. So it may be they are starting from list to the real ones, because for me the ones I really even suspect are not yet there. You have known that parliament or parliamentary committees have been involved in those things, and many people have complained. For example, people have complained about park. Even when it was under the frugal Nandala Mafari, I was told that sometimes that hard face and questioning is put so that later you can say, Honorable, how can I get out of this? And indeed, the people who are normally chairing those things become tycoons. And when you ask them where they are getting money, they tell you they are businessmen. You try to search on the register of businesses to see which businesses do they do and how much money does this business create every year, the turnover
and the tax they pay.
The tax they pay, so that you know how much they are getting. You don't see anything, but they are very powerful. They have homes with vehicles as if they are bonds where they sell vehicles. So I really think that this is just a tip of the iceberg. But what I don't like is the randomness. Today we are dealing with the issue of development bank. The other day we are dealing with the issue of committee. I would really be happy to see that government comes up with a very clear thing, so that everybody, for example, a good government, what they would have done is first of all to come up with a process. Maybe an audit. Of course, they are dealing on evidence which has been created by the spy network of the country. Sometimes that is problematic because they are using a wider net, maybe, so that they capture and then, but the other people may sneak. That is one. But two, we want, this should not be spontaneous, and it should not be something just to wink us for a few months. Then afterwards, these people will get bail. I'm happy that they have not yet given them bail yet, but I hope they will also successfully prosecute the
One
matter.
was given and
kidnapped,
taken off.
Back to the black mambas, kidnapped him back to the cells. Now we even don't know where he is. And you see, those are the things which
the speaker said is in Chibuli answering another case.
You see, that is what even jeopardizes the whole process. When you have arrested somebody, you have evidence that he has stolen. If he's given bail, why don't you put together your evidence and take it before court and is charged? Now, when they start doing such dramas, those dramas really water down the whole thing. Like now, that man, is he still under arrest? Is he kidnapped? We don't know whether he's now kidnapped or because the man now is going to get political capital. He says the court released me, then they kidnapped me. This must be a political vendetta. So sometimes the government, in our government, Major, you need to teach them that when you are carrying the gun, you put the barrel behind you, you don't put it on your foot, and you keep shooting yourself. Because once you shoot yourself, how will you move? I know you are better than me in that area. You are people. They carry the gun while it is cocked and they put it pointing on their foot. So they keep shooting their feet accidentally. Because it really shows you that this is a drama, it's a drama. Because I have seen in most cases where you see those dramas of bail and rearrest, I have not seen any case that has succeeded, starting from the Black Mambas, the ones which stormed into the court. All those guys were released later because lack of evidence or poor prosecution. So I hope the thing also will not go on like that. But it really shows that there is a problem. Because when they showed, I hope those things were not rumors, when they showed some of the property that these people have, it really shows that these people have a problem, because some of them have been in parliament for 2 years and they don't do any business. So we really feel that let's hope, and I want to give a benefit of doubt to my government, which I don't trust in this area, that I hope they are moving systematically and they are going to allay people in court and prove, because theft is there, but it can only be theft when it is proven by a competent court or body.
Thank you, Doctor. Mrs. Mugambwa, when you have members of parliament conniving with officials from a government institution to steal from the country, for example, the 3 legislators to take away 20% of the budget of an agency of government, what does this tell about, one, the leaders themselves, but also the seriousness or unseriousness of that particular country?
Of course, in Uganda now, you would see that however much now they are trying to act, you would see that corruption had become part of our government. It had become part of it is a song. It is something they would sing. It is something. It was normalized. Because now, even when, just ask yourself, this is a case that happened of recent. And my question, and I'm still having, yes, the president is acting, but why pick more interest in this one first? Yes? If Wagadia, is Wagadia? Wangadia reported, why is it that her case was given more attention? Is it the only case that
Compared to which one?
Compared to the different allegations I'm coming to that. I'm coming to that. Given the situation we were in, and of course, allegations most times later of corruption turn into facts, if given attention. This is a case that came in at a time when, which might be, as they claim, that they are wrong. We've had receipts exhibited around all social medias. We've had issues of corruption we are talking about the parliament. Very many allegations on social media. We are calling them allegations because that is what but receipts have been put out. Yes. And no of any that the president has picked interest.
Maybe just to give him, because I know he normally likes to slide on such things. There was an exhibition. The exhibition named people in parliament.
That is what I was going to get to.
Who were misusing resources there. Some of them are even the leaders of that parliament. Why wasn't the president interested in that?
That is
because they are all allegations. They are all allegations. There was this allegation of the Kamba. I mean, this man. It is not a matter of 2024. It was a matter of 2021.
The service award?
No. This man of the development bank, the money for investment,
the National Investment Authority, investors,
and many others. That's why she's asking why these poor people, these poor thieves. You don't know how
I wouldn't call them poor. I wouldn't call them poor.
The word poor is in quotes.
Yeah, it's in quotes. There might be.
They don't know how to steal.
It could be the stupid fools, thieves, because, and me, I'm still asking. There are questions just running in my head, that at least to us citizens, there are evidences. Yes, that I believe the president would have picked also interest. Yes, to see that by today, at least we would have someone being questioned, even if not in jail. When we look at the Mabati saga, yes, we can see that some people are still in court, but again, even some people, because they brought back the Mabati, they were left, you know, because already just you accepting that I was involved in this, it is something the president would have gotten interested in. We can see there's been an...
Mrs. Winfred, sorry for cutting you short.
Just correcting you,
Miss Winfred. You see, when we talk about the president picking interest, yes, he's the president, but we have a series of institutions that should have done this even before the president picks interest. What happened? That is why
that is where I'm coming from, and which means we're on the same page. When you ask why, that is where in my head I'm saying, why now? Yes? And your question is which kind of
leaders
are we having? We're having incompetent leaders in the parliament. I believe personally, I'm not saying, when we talk about competence, some people think about books, someone has a master's, but are we having the right people in parliament? Are we having the right person to represent us in this? Personally, over 80% of legislators in parliament are incompetent, to me. That is why you see that there is a lot of saga, there is a lot of circus, even when you see on the floor of parliament, away from even corruption, when they are discussing matters of importance, you will see them, some of them just stand to defend something, not just defending that they are defending out of bringing even evidence like defending with passion of the party.
Someone said the voters came to parliament and legislators remained in the constituency. Do you agree with that?
Why I wouldn't truly agree with that 100%, because you never know, even the voters they are saying would have been the legislators, what would they do inside? Because it starts from us as citizens, you get it? But again, even when people are brought into parliament, to get them to the level of competence, is there enough capacity building that they are given? Is even there enough, given again this, let me say, the different committees in the parliament, what is the background check on the people? What is the background check they do on the people who are even given positions to lead? So there is a lot of, first of all, lack of competence within the legislators. When you ask that, are we having a parliament? No, we are having a circus ground. To me, we are having a circus ground. Yes, we are having people who are just earning and again, but again, the problem would be, we are looking at focusing on the 11th parliament. But I feel that this is something that is just being inherited. From where? It could be from the previous parliament, but not all of them. But maybe it's even from because to me, I see, we all see that the executive has a lot of power over the parliament. And how is he running the party? Within the party, are there such issues that have been not handled? And again, because the parliament is more full of the majorities from the same party And that is why they are transferring the verse this side. So there are very many things contributing, but right now, we don't have a parliament. We only have just a body there.
Well, we should find out from Major. Major, I know in a few weeks from today, there is a celebration at Kololo celebrating the achievements of President Museveni and by extension the NRM. Is corruption on the menu list for the celebration?
Corruption should be on the menu, could be on the menu list if we had stamped it out. Stamping it out is what would turn it into an achievement, because there we are celebrating achievement. And therefore, I think, in my opinion, and I think in the wider opinion of the party, is that if we're celebrating 10 achievements, to be honest, we should put, however, this one is not yet.
We have started on it.
Yeah, you can list 10 achievements. These achievements, security, unity, peace, economic, all that, 10 of them. Then you said, however, colleagues, on this one, we have not yet. So, to answer your question, corruption is not on the menu because it can only be on the menu. To put corruption on that list of achievement is when you have stamped it out, that we are celebrating the achievement because we have not, so it is not going to be there. But permit me to comment on a few things that my friends have said about the police. You know, a lot of things have been said about corruption in police, including a commission of inquiry by Justice Sebutinde, who is now at the International Court. So it was believed that police were corrupt and all this. But I think maybe it was too early because we had not yet known the gravity. I think what was meant then was police gets 5,000 from a suspect. When you're writing a statement, traffic officers get 1,000. Sometimes even the 10,000 you find they have put on top 5,000, then inside is 1,000. And since it is corruption, they just give you that. So the perception was that police were corrupt.
Major looks like he has
Yes. Major, you know
No, I don't. I've never done it. I know how they
No, but
do it.
government knows these things.
They should be knowing. The practice is known. Now, if we are to do the life audit approach to corruption, I'm sure police would not be found like this. Even if you find how many police officers have children in expensive schools?
very few.
How many police officers are built in Tinda, Nalia, say Niger, whatever, Nigeria?
Very few.
How many police officers actually drive and drink in Serena or Sheraton?
Very few.
And how many police officers are private four-wheel vehicles? So if you take it from a lifestyle audit, the majority of police actually drink Maroa in Wanige, Namuongo, and Banda, and police in Kisenyi.
Naguru.
So if you take a lifestyle audit, I don't think police would have been in that mix of things. But it has been a... So some school of thought things that maybe it's not the correct... The method was not the correct method to find police culpable of all institutions. We could devise another system. But surely if you take it to a lifestyle audit, go to St. Lawrence, or this school in Ikajans is called what? St. Mary's Kitende.
St. Mary's Kitende,
And
yeah.
check the number of police officers who have 40 children there compared to other officers from other institutions. You'll find police is not. You think police officers don't want their children in St. Mary's Kitende? So from the life audit point of view, I'm not sure police would win that prize. But it is for everybody else to see. Now, the issue of arresting somebody after I was released on bail, it's a tricky thing. First
Major,
of all...
do we call that an arrest?
Well, it was an arrest according to the executors
Someone
of
is
the order.
released, people come,
Yes.
no identification.
So what I'm saying is, it looks like this same person earlier on this charge, he had a criminal summon and he reported. unless the information is to the contrary, that they traced him, maybe got him crossing the border. But if it is true that he was criminally summoned and he came, what suspicion was there that he would not be summoned a second time? So I feel that even if this man had another case to answer, if I was in charge, I would have used a different approach than this crude way. Because it should have been criminally summoned like it was summoned in the previous case, and he would report. I know what is disturbing the state of arrest after a bail is that, one, people think there's a right to bail. There's nothing like a right to bail. There's no animal called right to bail. The animal that is known is a right to apply for bail. And when you apply for bail, it is the court to grant. That is it. The part that disturbs the state is that once a bail is granted, there's no right to appeal. In all matters, you should appeal up to Supreme Court. But a bail, you don't appeal. For instance, if somebody kills 30 people and he gets a bail, that is it. You can't arrest him even if you say, but surely you kill 30 people. Now he has got a bail. The prosecution cannot say, I'm appealing. That is why states have the temptation on what state think there is a prima facie offense to arrest on another thing. And that debate is going to continue forever. So that's why the passage, surely this man did this, now he has got bail, is going. Then if the state has evidence on another charge, they arrest. However, that's why I'm saying, even if there was evidence that he had another crime to answer, wasn't it going to be possible if this honorable member was summoned the next day?
Major, could this have been the mind behind the president when he was advocating for the repealing or the removal of the right to apply for bail?
Yes, because for the fact that there is no right to appeal against a bail. Now, so that disturbs the state.
To put the record right, the president did not say that they removed bail completely. He was arguing that there are certain offenses.
Specific offenses, yeah.
Where
that's what he was saying, yeah. So specific offenses, that was his concern. But what I'm saying is that states tend to arrest for another offense because your bail cannot be appealed against. You walk away with your bail. But what my point here is, could this honorable member not be summoned, criminal summoned, and he reports? How was he got in the first offense anyway? Did they get him crossing Malaba, Busia, and brought? So that the state says, this man, if you don't arrest him crudely here, we are not going to get him again. So, but the issue of non-appeal by the state on the bail has brought issues of arrest on another charge. The other thing I want to comment about is Miss, by the way, she made a correction because a beautiful lady appearing to the whole world and you are telling her the world is Mrs. You are breaking our market.
No.
But
I'm not such.
No, but she made her record clear she's not Mrs. anyway. But the point here is, if you take it in a quantitative figure, Mr. Obore, 1.7 billion was wired on his account.
Yes.
Some driver, 1.something billion was wired. This one, I think the misconcern is, why have we not dealt with that? And then this one. Why wouldn't we serve the crimes on first come, first serve basis? And why this? I think you could have a point. I am simply also wondering the choice. Maybe there has been investigation on this one before the other display of billions. So I think it is whoever has preferred the charge to explain why the choice of not even preferring charge on this, but having to prefer charge on this. I think that is a concern for everybody, and it can best be answered by the person preferring the charge. But I get your concern, because why I provoked you into asking you which one, I wanted you to be specific, to be exact, that money was displayed, so and so was wired. Even sweepers or office attendants in the office, money was proved that billions were wired. on this office messenger, on this one, public relations or Bore, on this driver. I think there were such evidence. So my question to you was not to deny. My question to you was to provoke you to put tangible events to read.
There.
Yes. So your concern is anybody's concern. But now, as far as the party and government is concerned, I want to say that for us, we are committed to zero tolerance to corruption, and the war is on. For example, we have had a change of committees in Parliament. It was found that the SEC had a policy enshrined that party members should not serve as heads of this committee, chair and vice chair, for more than 2 years. And some people wanted to flout the rule. Said, why? First of all, we have a big number of members. They should be exposed to leadership. 2, there was also fear that whoever has been in that committee for long, it is what perpetuates that relationship with the ministries. So you have served here 2 years, go. In fact, the president was so clear that there was one lady from Muliisa who is a clan member of Museveni. Museveni said, she's my clan member, I know that, but the rule is 2 years. So that is what I call zero tolerance. Otherwise, we would have said, okay, this lady is from the Abasita. Abasita is Museveni's clan, Abasita clan. Somebody would say, see, this one is from Abasita, this is the president's clan, let her stay. They said, no. It was from the president himself said, I know she's my relative from my clan, Abasita clan, please, if the rule is 2 years, remove all of them. And this affected even the husband of the speaker, Engineer Magogo. So for us as a party, we are really on zero tolerance as far as Parliament is concerned, including the arrest that you are seeing.
Maybe, Major, briefly on that particular issue, why is it such so that, because President Museveni feeds on information from these intelligence agencies, ISO, CID, and so on, they get this information, but wait for the president to say something about this information, to act. Why shouldn't it be that, for example, if CID has information on Major Awich, they give it to, they immediately summon Major Awich and the processes take shape?
Well, I think we are mixing two things, the intelligence information and the CID, which is basically for prosecution. Intelligence, we don't know what happens. Intelligence, they file their information in secrets, and it is the consumer of the information to know how to do it. So we don't know how much intelligence, for example, ISO, ESO, or CMI gives. And that is the domain, a discretion of the president to see how he uses that. But for criminal, CID, Criminal Investigation Department, this is an investigative body for purposes of prosecution. They feed the DPP, and DPP gives them further instructions. For example, if they investigate and the DPP as a lawyer finds that the ingredients of the offense we are targeting is not met, go and find more. That's why file keeps going back to police. Please find more information on this. And that's why police take more statements from suspects or from other people. So for intelligence, that is the use is for the person who consumes the information. But I don't know whether you are saying that even police wait for that. But police, the presumption always is that when they get a suspect, they should file their filing straight with the DPP, and DPP should move.
But we saw in this particular case, they had the information. The president only had to talk on that State of the Nation address, and he said, let us do this, and that's when they had to summon these MPs.
Or the president was taking advantage.
Oh, no. I think this one is now, I think this is where the two meet. Where the two meet is that intelligence get the information and file it with the president. Then the president, maybe even the police was not aware. Then the president uses his intelligence to tell police to go into action. So you find the police wasn't even aware, but intelligence had informed the president. So the president is actually consuming that information, telling police, I have got intelligence that this is going on. Please go
The
for it.
lady called the president directly. She reported to the president directly.
Yes, that is even in the case of direct report. But also there could be a case of, like for example, ministries conniving. I think that is the findings of intelligence. Ministries conniving is part of the intelligence. For the chairperson, Human Rights Commission could be our own complaint to the president or reporting. Yes.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, our time is
Maybe
really
just
very fast
in a
spent.
sentence.
Yes.
You know, in Uganda here we have a very big problem. The Baganda have an adage that nanyini mu wabemva. It ends something, but to literally translate is that when the house head starts to steal, how they call it, sauce from the saucepan, then there is a problem in that family. When you look at the problem in parliament, in my view, was caused by the executive. The executive have been watching parliament for some time, over 20 years now, and I've discovered that parliament has now become only a rubber stamp, where they only come in to approve what has been already been approved by the executive. So the right of appropriation only comes to cut here, take there, cut there, take here. And I've talked about that several times here. The way, for example, the budget was changing from 52 to 58, then to 72. There was a problem. In my view, it was corruption in action. Because in my view, when the president starts telling these people, put this money for these people of mine, put the other one, not depending on the BPF, budget framework paper, and it is by law that what is given as a budget framework paper, or it should be the budget later. If the adjustments should be within there. I told you the other day about this award which we give. It started with the president. The president started requesting for money to give gifts. As the budget they approved now is 126 billion. In my view, that is institutionalized corruption. Then the movement caucus. In most cases, the movement caucus has been called to the State House or wherever to approve clandestine things like, for example, I have had problems with supplementary. In fact, where they have stolen money in this country, where these investigators should go, is on supplementaries. A person getting a supplementary of about 157 billion to go and renovate a factory, when that is the budget of Kyambogo University a whole year, in itself is corruption. And at the end of the day, you don't see that factory, and next year they are going to ask for the same money. This is the thing. Almost the money has always been coming.
A sentence, you remember? You said a sentence.
This is the one thing. This is the one thing. I know Major is now afraid. Yeah, this is the one thing. They have always been passing money in supplementary. So in my view, corruption at parliament, you can blame the individuals. The individuals are just pawns on the chessboard. But the problem is the institutions we have. NRM, government, presidency, and all those things.
Philip,
Thank you
one
so
sentence.
much. Yes, Major.
I know you are struggling with time to fit us within the time, and that's why I was worried for the professor.
Yes,
you are struggling to fit us within the time. In a sentence, in that one, appropriation is made by executive. It is the executive, including the president, who proposes. So it is absolutely right for the president to propose. Now, in the same sentence, I'm saying, while it is true that indeed if a head of a house steals, the children copy the bad practice, in our case, the president and the head of the house is not stealing.
Thank you so much, Major. And Ms. Mugambwa Winfred, briefly, let's have your final sentence on the show. How do we correct this mess we have around?
We need to just fire all the members of parliament. Personally, that is what I think, because it is already a mess. It is already a mess. And another thing, like how they've said the executive has a lot of power. Yes, he should propose, but if really he cares for this country, not care for the position and the benefits, he needs to reduce on the power he has to influence the decisions. Yes, he can propose, but for the love of the country, person as a citizen, I would request him to stop influencing, because he has a lot of influence on the decisions. Another thing I would think,
President
I don't know
Museveni
how,
is a head of a political party.
I know he's the head of a political party,
And
but I'm saying
political parties only have to look for power and have it.
that is political party. But now when we are in parliament, I believe now we are looking at the citizens, the nation. We are not looking at party. That is now where that was going to be my second point. The other issue, if all people, as we enter parliament to do the work for the citizen, for the country, for the nation, we go away from being partisan. If it needs now balancing the representation, if it's going to be the problem. But our main problem is because we are having the majority of the people who are decided, the majority coming from then the influencer. Then the last one I would think is we need there's I talked about the reshuffle. I talked about the president to think about the nation and then reduce the power. Then the parliament, there's need to balance. They need either to balance the number of parties. Now let me give you an example. NRM is changing their commissions. But again, how come that the speaker would refuse the opposition to remove that is already corruption. So the problem
maybe
is
in that
coming from the
particular
ruling
regard,
party.
the NRM doesn't change. It proposes to Parliament and Parliament approves the proposal.
Okay.
And indeed the opposition does.
If opposition has proposed, why would you refuse as the speaker? Because it's not the speaker. It's not. It is the speaker refused. You know, when we are talking about corruption,
it is a decision of Parliament.
I understand, but when we are talking about corruption, we need to also look at those other things that can lead to corruption. But only for us, we are putting only focus on money. But let's also look at other things that are fueling the bigger picture of the corruption we are looking at.
Thank you so much, Miss Mugambwa Winfred, for those amazing views and for finding time to be with us here on the Citizens Chat Show. Dr. Robert Ojambo, thank you so much for joining us today and for the amazing views. And Councillor Awich Pollar, thank you so much for joining us today and for the amazing views. And to you, our viewers, thank you so much for always keeping it the Citizens Chat Show on Civic Space TV. Special thanks to the Center for Constitutional Governance. You do a great job in making sure we do what we do, and special thanks to the people behind the machines. All of you, well done from us. We say good evening and may you have freedom.
Thank you.
Always.